Hello everyone, Malphite here, and today we have very exciting news. This time talking about Caps who resign for until 2027, and I think this is the interview of Sheep Esports with G2 Romain, and I briefly read this, and there's so many thoughts popping into my head. So let's just quickly go through it. So Caps has just extended his contract with G2 until 2027, meaning he could spend nearly a decade with the team. Is the idea that he stays with the G2 until he retires, like Faker or like Faker is for T1. So this is what they're asking for Romain, and basically the answer is that they just want him to stay. He's the European GOAT, right? He's the best mid laner, still right now probably, and just historically for the whole org, and he's been with G2 for so long. Now, this is very interesting because actually I was hoping and also kind of thinking, I also heard, I think Kader will talk about this, that many contracts are running out. Also, Caps' contract is running out, and he could potentially join Fnatic, right? And I think this will be really interesting because there is Grabs in Fnatic, there's Duffman in Fnatic, there's Mickey now in Fnatic, and Humanoid's contract is running out. So we could just have perhaps Caps, Upset, Mickey in the bot side. You already have Razork in Fnatic, and then, I don't know, maybe you take BB with you, or something of the sort, and you could have a team like BB, Razork, Caps, Upset, Mickey, for example, because I think Caps really likes playing with Mickey. So I think that team would be really cool. Also, I'm not really sure about how like the whole Skewmond Labrov thing is shaping up. It's still just spring, but that would be a really cool team. And of course, it would really be cool to see Caps in a new team and see what G2 does, for example. But let's go through these questions and let's see what actually motivated Caps to join this team, or to, I would say, stay with the team. So he didn't extend his contract in November because you hadn't reached an agreement at the time, and eventually accepted a pay cut to resign. Was there ever a moment that you were really worried he might not resign, or even leave during the offseason? So this has actually been a conversation. This is what Roman says, going on for 6 months. We both took our time to really refine what each side was expecting. I was very transparent with him. These are pros and cons to signing now, just as they are waiting until the end of the year. So obviously, the pros of signing now is that he will be locked in for the team, so he doesn't have to feel pressure during, for example, Worlds. If G2 gets to Worlds, he's not gonna keep getting like offers from all these teams that are building their rosters while they are still competing during Worlds, right? And also, if he's already locked in, all the other players on the other teams know, okay, Caps is locked in. Maybe if we like playing with each other or something, maybe if my contract is running out, this is a team that potentially could want me, Caps could want me, and so on. So potentially this could be some sort of a Caps' dream team situation where they build around him. However, on the other hand, we know many players are signed, and so Caps cannot just point at a player and they will sign this player, right? So this is a lot more complicated. There are many players that are currently being signed by an org, right? So Calist is locked with KC, similarly with like Yike. I don't know, Mickey is probably locked for Fnatic, and so on, right? So it's not as easy as it seems, but knowing that Caps is going to be staying in G2, at least for next year, at least because of his contract, it's a really big deal for the team, right? The second thing is that Caps is the highest paid player in the whole league, which makes total sense, if you ask me. And there are not many teams who can afford him. So I think the only teams that could potentially try to get Caps would be like G2, Fnatic, and then very, very unlikely KC or maybe Koi, right? Something of this sort. But, it's just very unlikely that these teams can actually pay for him. So him taking a pay cut just makes so much sense, especially with how the things are looking in the esports, and the pay is just getting cut across the board. So It just makes total sense. Can we say that in a way, re-signing Caps means that G2 is really going to build around him for the next 2 years? So Romain just says that Caps has been a pillar of the team, and they always try to build around him. But also, it's not just Caps that decides the team; the whole team decides, and there's many questions and so on. If it hadn't worked out, can you imagine G2 with a different mid laner than Caps today? Yes, we would have had to consider that option. It would have been a mistake on our part not to evaluate the question. The main focus was to resign him. The options we could have put into place to replace him didn't excite me nearly as much. I'm very happy to be in reality where he trusts his staff to help him achieve his dream. So yeah, obviously no one is really at the Caps level. G2 could have maybe went for someone like Vladdy. They could have went for someone like Humanoid. Who knows what were the names they would be interested in. I think, yeah, there's even a question about this. Would it be better to bet on a rookie like Vladdy? And Romain says, I think it would have been better to bet on rookie, similarly as in Caps' state, because you could just build the rookie as your big player in your team. Established millionaires are a bit more complicated. Either they're already shown their ceiling or they're timed out by exacting contracts. Yeah, so exactly what I just said. If you didn't have budget restrictions, do you think G2 would have considered recruiting other players perhaps more expensive than the current roster? No, we pay our players very well. So basically they already have the best players they could have, is what they're trying to say. However, I think there are still some interesting options on the market, like Calist, like Yike, Razork. I don't know, Mickey could have stayed, right? But I guess that's not really something they wanted. So that's about it for this video. So Caps chose to resign, which on one hand is a bit sad because we will not see him in a different team. But if you're a G2 fan, you can probably look forward to having a very strong team, even for next year. I'm also a G2 fan. I'm also a fan of some other teams, and I'm mostly a fan of the possibilities and the excitement that the game can bring us. So yeah, that's about it. Stay tuned for more news, for more theories and more lore behind the scenes of the game. Smash like for more. Write me some nice comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.